From convicted warlords to drug traffic kingpins and mass murderers, HMP Frankland near Durham houses some of the most violent, dangerous prisoners in the United Kingdom. Welcome to the top 10 most dangerous prisoners held or once held at HMP Frankland Prison. Don't forget to throw a like on the video, subscribe for more top list videos coming soon and publishing weekly, and don't forget to share the video with your friends to help us rise in the YouTube algorithm. I hope you enjoy the video. Number 15. Charles Taylor. This former Liberian politician who served as the 22nd President of Liberia from August 2nd, 1997 until his resignation on 11th of August 2003 is also a convicted warlord. Accused of war crimes and crimes against humanity, he was involved in the Sierra Leone Civil War and went into exile in Nigeria. Sentenced to 50 years in prison, he was described as being responsible for aiding and abetting in some of the most heinous and brutal crimes recorded in human history. His guilty verdicts include acts of terrorism, murder, slavery, conscription of children, and enslavement, just to name a few. Currently imprisoned at HMP Frankland, motions to have him transferred to a prison in Rwanda have been denied, and he was caught making phone calls from prison to threaten his enemies. Being 64 years at the time of sentencing, his 50-year sentence means that this is a de facto whole life term. Number 14. Diren Barrow. Convicted Indian-born British terrorist Diren Barrow was arrested on the 3rd of August 2004 and charged with a number of offences including conspiracy to commit murder and conspiracy to commit a public nuisance by the use of radioactive materials and toxic gases. He admitted to plotting to bomb the New York Stock Exchange and the International Monetary Fund headquarters, while it was revealed he underwent training in small arms training, mortars and basic explosives. Barrow was sentenced to life imprisonment after pleading guilty to conspiracy to murder on the 7th of November 2006, with a recommendation that he serve a minimum of 40 years. His sentence was reduced to 30 years on appeal, and he was later attacked in prison, receiving treatment for burns, and a news blackout was imposed. Number 13. David Bieber. Also known under the alias of Nathan Wayne Coleman, Bieber had entered the United Kingdom on a false passport and received a 6-month visa. Having been stopped by police officers on the evening while driving on false plates, he attacked the officers with a 9mm handgun. 2 officers managed to escape the attack, however, Police Constable Ian Broadhurst took a direct hit at point-blank range and was killed execution style. He went on the run and a nationwide manhunt ensued, with him later tracked to Leeds, and he was arrested by armed officers, having dyed his hair orange and armed himself further. Charged with murder and 2 counts of attempted murder, he was eventually convicted on all counts, initially receiving a whole life sentence, later reduced to 37 years on appeal. He was involved in an escape plot in 2007 and was given an additional life sentence after attacking a prison guard, meaning he won't be released until 2047 when he is 80 years old. Number 12. Mark Dixie. Having a long criminal record, Dixie was both a heavy drinker and user of cannabis and cocaine for years. His first conviction for robbery came when he robbed a woman at knife point, and he was later convicted of burglary and robbery. Picking up convictions of indecent assault and indecent exposure in 1988, he was convicted of indecent assault and assault occasioning actual bodily harm that same year. By 1990, he had been convicted of assaulting a police officer and was again accused of a sexual assault in 2001, for which he was not prosecuted. Dixie was found guilty of murdering Sally Ann Bowman on the 22nd of February 2008 and was sentenced to life imprisonment at the Old Bailey after his DNA was found on the body. It was recommended that due to his previous crimes, he not be released for at least 34 years, when he will be 70 years old. He received 2 further life sentences in 2017 for 2 more attacks on women that happened in 1986 and 2002, meaning he will almost certainly die in prison. Number 11. Curtis Warren. One of the United Kingdom's most notorious criminals, Curtis Warren is both a gangster and drug trafficker, formerly top of Interpol's most wanted list and once even made the Sunday Times rich list. Working as a nightclub doorman, he began to learn the ways of the drugs trade, gaining in-depth knowledge and inside education from patrons. Travelling to Venezuela in 1991, Warren and businessman Brian Charrington travelled to Venezuela, met with the Cali cartel and smuggled cocaine in steel boxes concealed in lead ingots. The first shipment passed customs, however the second, which had a tip-off from Dutch police, was caught and those involved were arrested. The court case collapsed after it was revealed that one of the men was a police informant, leading to the charges being dropped. Having purchased casinos in Spain, discos in Turkey, a vineyard in Bulgaria, land in the Gambia and money stashed away in Swiss bank accounts, he decided to continue his crime spree. Arrested in the Netherlands with a £125 million stash of guns, ammunition, drugs and hand grenades, he was sentenced to 12 years in a maximum security prison. In 2007, not long after his return to the UK, he was found guilty of conspiracy to smuggle cannabis and sentenced to 13 years imprisonment, extended for 10 years when he failed to pay a £198 million confiscation order. He was released in 2022 and disappeared. Number 10. Michael Stone. Convicted of the 1996 murders of Lynn and Megan Russell and the attempted murder of Josie Russell, Michael Stone is a current inmate at the prison at the time of publication. Having protested his innocence about the murders, his legal team have said that convicted serial killer Levi Bellfield had confessed to the murders. Having previously killed his partner through an accidental heroin overdose, he is also suspected of carrying out an unsolved murder that occurred in Maidstone in 1976. He was questioned about the death of a friend who fell under a London tube train, later boasting that he pushed the man onto the tracks. Sentenced to 25 years in prison, he is due for his first parole hearing sometime this year. However, he is refusing release until the convictions are overturned. Number 9. John Duffy. Serial killer John Duffy was originally referred to in the press as the Railway Murderer, or Laser Eyes, when he was identified in 1986. Teaming up with his accomplice David Mulchy, he attacked numerous women and children at railway stations in southern England. He was convicted of 2 murders and 4 rapes at trial in 1998 and was given a minimum tariff of 30 years by the judge, later extended to a whole life tariff by then Home Secretary Douglas Hurd. He has since been sentenced to a further 12 years imprisonment for 7 rape offences and is never expected to leave prison. Number 8. Colin Norris. Another serial killer, this time from Milton, Glasgow. Norris originally worked as a travel agent after leaving college. A few years after this role, he retrained to become a nurse, but was known for having a short temper and aggressive confrontations with tutors and employers. Working in Leeds, he soon had issues with management and began working at different hospitals while claiming to be off sick or attending a training course. Found to have committed a theft in the early part of his nursing career, he helped a colleague in stealing drugs from a hospital and was caught. Between May 2002 and November 2002, Norris murdered 4 elderly patients and attempted to murder a 5th, later claiming his hatred for elderly people drove him to do it. He was nicknamed the Angel of Death and was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum of 30 years, with the trial judge branding him a thoroughly evil and dangerous man. He is, at the time of publication, still in Frankland. Number 7. Peter Sutcliffe. Now deceased Yorkshire Ripper Peter Sutcliffe is considered to be one of the most dangerous prisoners ever held at Frankland Prison. Held on a whole life order until his death in 2020, he was convicted of killing 13 people, injuring 7 and suspected of murdering more, possibly upwards of 22. His crimes spanned 7 regions in the United Kingdom, with Leeds being the centre of Ripper activity. Having been arrested for driving on false plates, Sutcliffe was charged with the Ripper murders after police found knife, hammer and rope at the arrest site and another knife in the police station toilet. He suddenly admitted total guilt in the case, was charged and was found guilty of murder on all counts, being sentenced to 20 concurrent life sentences of imprisonment. Issued with a whole life tariff in 2010, he admitted 2 further attacks and died in prison aged 74 from a suspected heart attack and other medical complications. Number 6. Peter Chapman. Featuring heavily in the media and becoming known as the Facebook killer, Chapman was convicted of the 2009 kidnap and murder of 17-year-old Ashley Hall. Born in Darlington, Chapman was brought up by his grandparents in neighbouring Stockton-on-Tees before moving to Liverpool. First investigated at the age of 15, he received a 7-year prison sentence for raping 2 sex workers at knife point, but was released from prison in 2001. 8 years later, using a Facebook profile, he impersonated a teenage boy to befriend the 17-year-old student while living in his car. He was found guilty of the murder and sentenced to serve a minimum of 35 years, which is currently being served at Frankland. Number 5. Levi Bellfield. Another of the most dangerous inmates serving his whole life order at HMP Frankland, Levi Bellfield has nicknames of the bus stop killer and the Hammer Man. The former nightclub bouncer and business owner has been convicted of murdering 3 people, including Millie Dowler, Marsha McDonnell and Emile Delagrange. His criminal rap sheet before the murders included burglary, assault and theft, while also being convicted of assaulting a police officer in 1990. Often coming across as polite and full of jokes, Bellfield could quickly turn nasty, becoming controlling and evil. He is expected to spend the rest of his days at Frankland. Number 4. Ian Huntley. In a crime that gripped the UK national press, the disappearance of Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman had Cambridgeshire police baffled. Having vanished into thin air while on a walk, the 2 10-year-old girls were later found to have been lured into the home of their school caretaker, Ian Huntley. Huntley denied any involvement, often appearing in searches for the girls and at meetings held by the police at the school. He gave interviews to the media both outside and inside his home, and his wife Maxine Carr eventually stated that he had been with her during the day. Carr lied, mainly due to the controlling nature of Huntley, and as the evidence against Huntley began to unravel, both were arrested and Huntley was charged with murder. Carr was charged with perverting the course of justice and jailed at trial, while Huntley was sentenced to life imprisonment, with a minimum of 40 years, meaning he won't be up for parole until 2042. Number 3. Wayne Couzens. In a case that brought the attention of women's safety to the forefront of the British media and society as a whole, Wayne Couzens was a serving police constable in the Metropolitan Police. He stopped 33-year-old Sarah Everard while she was walking home to Brixton Hill from a friend's house near Clapham Common. After handcuffing her and placing her into his car, he kidnapped Everard and murdered her in Dover before disposing of the body. Couzens would have got away with murder had it not been for a dashcam footage that caught him detaining her on a London street. He attempted to wipe his cell phone before arrest and claimed he was being blackmailed by an Eastern European gang to provide women prostitutes. The case caused outrage across the country, sparking protests, and Couzens pleaded guilty to all 3 counts of murder, rape and kidnapping in court. He received a whole life tariff for the crime, later being convicted of 3 incidents of indecent exposure, and is currently in Frankland. Number 2. Harold Shipman. One of the worst serial killers not only in the UK but also possibly in the world, Fred Shipman, as he was known to acquaintances, is thought to have killed around 250 people. Nicknamed Dr. Death by the British media, Shipman would target mainly elderly residents on home visits and then attempted to steal their assets. He went under the radar for years and was finally caught in 1998 after John Pollard, the coroner for the South Manchester district, was notified about the high death rate in Shipman's patients. Shipman had been signing the death certificates of the murder victims and, unbeknownst to the police and medical authorities, was raiding their estates, taking one payment for £386,000. Shipman was convicted of the murders of 15 people, and even though he is suspected of killing hundreds more, he was briefly held at Frankland during his trial. Subject to a whole-life tariff after conviction, this was to be served concurrently with a sentence of 4 years for forging victims' wills. Shipman is the only doctor in the history of British medicine found guilty of murdering his patients, and he hanged himself in Wakefield Prison on the 13th of January 2004. Number 1. Thomas Mayer. In a crime that shocked the nation, extreme right-wing terrorist Thomas Mayer had visions of advancing both white supremacism and exclusive nationalism. He took those views to the extreme on the 16th of June 2016 when he walked to a routine surgery in Birstall, West Yorkshire, held by British MP Jo Cox. In an act of terrorism, Mayer attacked Cox outside the venue, shooting her twice and stabbing her multiple times, with others who came to her rescue also attacked. The 53-year-old unemployed gardener was arrested short time later, only a mile from the scene, and was deemed to be suffering from mental health problems. He believed that individuals of liberal and left-wing political viewpoints and the mainstream media were the cause of the world's problems. Many propagandist books and information on the construction of bombs were found in his home, with him having visited a treatment centre in Birstall seeking help for depression the night before. He named himself as Death to Traitors, Freedom for Britain in a court appearance, and was later convicted of murder to advance political, racial and ideological causes. Due to the exceptionally serious nature of the killing, the judge imposed a whole life term, meaning Mayer, who is currently imprisoned at Frankland, will probably die there unless he is ever moved. Thanks for checking out the top 10 most dangerous prisoners housed at HMP Frankland Prison. If you enjoyed the content and want me to cover more dangerous individuals in prisons around the world, make sure to punch the like button, comment below if I missed anyone in particular, and subscribe with the bell icon to never miss a new video.